Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking today at Reigns Her Majesty, which is the sequel to Reigns, which is a swipe left, swipe right game, which oddly has controller uh, controls for Xbox, which is fine. It does have like an interesting select your save file at the very beginning that's like hit the A button, hit the X button, or hit the start button as a prompt. Let's see if there's any actual settings here that needs to be changed. No. What's ironic here is the fact that Reigns is kind of based on a dating app where you swipe right and swipe left. And while that concept may still exist in dating apps, it certainly isn't as big of a deal as it once was. So the entire concept doesn't quite even apply very well to this game or to the previous Reigns game, because left didn't always mean like inherently negative and right didn't inherently mean positive or conservative or liberal or anything at all. It's just sometimes a choice to the left was good and had good outcomes. Sometimes it had bad outcomes. A lot of times it may have had a little bit of both. And then you go through these years as you reign, even if you die and you go to the next generation, and eventually there is a overarching story of a few more things unlocking and a few more actions being playable from the beginning of a second run versus the first run, which makes it a roguelite equivalent of a game with a very, very dumbed down input function. You can see at some point we'll get spells, curses. There's several challenges slash maybe achievements there. So one of the things I want to look at this is to think about, is there enough of a reason for there not to be voice acting in the sequel in particular, because there really may not be that much dialogue, or at the very least maybe some sound effects when specific things happen that give you kind of a audio language to recognize just by hearing that sound effect. The Reign series was fast and furious because it was really only a couple of years after Reigns that Reigns Your Majesty, or Her Majesty, came out, and then only a couple of years later they had a Game of Thrones Reigns game, and then I think they ran out of steam at that point because, frankly, even having two of these games is probably a little unnecessary. This is also a game that would play fairly well in its cell phone form, and on Steam is less logical. At the top, you have a religion, a populace, a sword, which represents your military might, and the dollar sign, which represents your currency. Generally, a decision is going to affect a couple of those in a positive way and a couple of those in a negative way. So it's a balancing act much more. I don't know if it was really a perfect balancing act in the first game. Maybe it's a bit more tweaked here. At the bottom there are some squares to represent, I think, kind of advisors, if I recall the original game, bonuses or paths that you potentially have unlocked. Quite literally, in the first game, there's a point where you get in a dungeon and have to find a way to go out of a maze. So it was just like swipe left to turn left, swipe right to turn right. So the beginning of this is, what a splendid wedding that was. How does it feel to be my queen? And you can go left or right to say great, or I don't even know you. But actually, it wants me to hit A for next. Right. So what you have to do is swipe left with the left stick and then hit A, which isn't really as fast as you would think. But I guess that's really the only way to confirm an action it would probably be nice if there was a setting here to turn that off. So you could just go left, right, but there's too high of a chance of doing that unless you're going to play with the D-pad. It does work with the D-pad though, so you're fairly consistent with hitting left and right on the D-pad. Up kind of tries to bump it one way or the other. Down tries to bump it one way or the other, but inherently there is only a left and a right. So let's go with I don't even know you. So there's a sound effect. Noticeably also the character's eyes blink, the king's eyes blink and all of that, and he looks potentially one way or the other depending on where you're swiping him, which is a little bit of animation, but otherwise you have a very static game here. And it's always a little surprising when you have a game that gets kind of overly hyped by mainstream video game journalists and then it sells a little bit more, because honestly this really could have been a game that nobody talked about, and sure, it may have had a slightly unique gameplay mechanic, but it probably didn't deserve 3 sequels and as much hype as the first game got. You'll get used to it. My mom did. You'll have Countess Laurentina to train you up. See you later. Ugh. Okay. Let's go with ugh. And here we have very much a gibberish sim-like language, which if they're going to speak in gibberish, they should probably speak a little bit faster and just like say like one phrase and that's it. So Your Majesty in English, or just what would be as short as saying Your Majesty in a made-up language. My How Young the New Queen Is, it would be an honor for me if you would call me mother. So we have the Comtesse Laurentia, not Countess, I misread that. So we can either say no or interject her aggressively, or we can say pardon ? I have a feeling maybe at some point we'll get a third option. That would be an interesting thing on the sequel. Of course, just Comtesse Laurentia is fine. It is my privilege to teach you how to balance court life. Inherently, also, as a YouTuber, I'm going to have to feel the need to read this out loud, whereas a player just playing the game wouldn't read it out loud, and thus it would be probably a lot less time-consuming and exhausting. Now, I also assume that each generation, each run is going to start this way, so we will eventually just get to the point where it's just like, yeah. Balance. You shall be pious yet flexible, which is the first one in the top left. Which populist yet royal, which is the second one. Mighty yet peaceful, and wealthy yet humble. I shall, whatever. If we say this, everything looks like it will go up. If I say whatever, everything looks like it will go up. And see, the game just tells you what happens. Maybe you don't know exactly how much. And then there's hidden gameplay mechanics in the first game that really don't directly connect to that system. So that you get into some weirdness there also. So yes, I said I shall, and now everything got bumped up a little bit more. Now, inherently, a video gamer would assume that you want each of those at the maximum. But I don't know if you actually do want each of them in the maximum, or if you want them kind of in the middle. You'll get different endings, and unfortunately almost every ending ends up with you being killed or dethroned if it's like the first game. And you're going to get these random choices. So there's 8 potential endings of just having it each of the top 4 too high, and then each of the top 4 too low, and then there's possibly other endings if you have 2 of the top 4 too high or too low. But then there are also other endings, so it's all kind of left hidden. She leaves you to face your first decisions as queen. Here we can go left or right, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't even have a prompt. So now we are at the first year, and we have 1,000. That our first year in the top right is our first year of our reign, and 1,000 is the actual date. The Feast of the Spring Plenty has roots in the occult. We must honor only church holidays in the royal calendar, says Sister Pauline. So yes, would increase our church, but it would irritate the people. So notice how it's a big dot and a little dot when it really should just be a arrow up and an arrow down, or a dot above and a dot below. So I guess you could certainly at this point get into it and try to role play and say, well, what kind of queen would you like to be? In range, you played as the king. It's pretty much the same. Notably here, the king is not making decisions, so that's odd. Let's go with no. And then you see that increased the general populace's like of you, but decreased your relationship with the church. And so now we are at year 2, so you only make one decision per year. That doesn't inherently mean you will only see one of these cards, because you may have a whole event that takes over the course of a year but has 2 or 3 cards. Alright, so if we did this, shall I hem your gown in gold thread or plain, your highness? If I go plain, everybody except for the military will be happy about that. If I go this, then everybody is decreased. So plain is the better choice. And see, here we have a second card, but still the same year. The cardinal would rather see you look austere, but glamour always wins the people's hearts. And so we can say got it or whatever. Right, now we're in year 3. Sadly, our local chapel is in disrepair. The cardinal will be angry. Please give us money to restore it. And now we have a new character, Pug. So do I want to take a big hit on money and the populace to repair the church, or do I want to take a big hit from the church? And I guess that is why they are circles instead of arrows up and down, because they're not really telling you whether it will be a positive effect. They're just telling you what amount of effect it will have. Because there is I suppose, on some of these answers, a dice roll that's happening where saying yes one time may get you one outcome, but saying yes the next time may give you a different outcome. I wrote a song about our lovely queen. I wish to perform it day and night at the court for a price. So if I say yes, the people will like me. If I say no, it won't cost me as much money, but it probably will irritate the people in the military. This is Sir Cedric. Let's go with yes. That guy's song about you goes on all day. I can't take it. Please let me just execute him, says the king. So interesting. You're the queen, but the king is asking you for permission, so It almost feels like you were supposed to gain the throne, and he has just gained a king title by marriage, which at a certain point, then he shouldn't really be called the king. He should be called a prince, or king who's not non-acting king. So do we want to kill him, or say that's excessive? Let's go with that's excessive. Let's just play this how I morally would choose. And next year, my queen, do you tend your horse with soft glove or with firm whip? Which inherently, I think this is we're trying to save you here because you're about to lose the support of the military answer. And it's a more metaphorical question instead of a concrete question. Let's go with firm. See, a firm hand embodies your kingdom, but often the people dislike ruthlessness. I see. I know what I'm doing. I see. So there we got a challenge. The maiden we ruled for at least 5 years, which I could question whether anybody would actually die in the first 5 years, but there's probably a way. Scandalous lady in the east is trying to ransom my good name. I beg the crown to pay what she asks. No. Yes, so is Cedric. It seems like we've already seen most of the characters now. And last, the new queen, let me show you how low I can bow. Watch this. Here I go. And see, here you have a question of, do you let him bow lower and potentially break his back, or do you say please don't and lose support in some way from the church, the people, and the military by not showing strength? But this is also a silly question, certainly. And this Centifia de Croquille is a silly name. I like to be face down to him. I am Stefano de Croquille, your court chamberlain and master of ceremony. Thank you. Boring. Saying thank you lost me power. The smell of dirt is in the air. Meat is in my heart. Oh, how I long to hunt. You don't mind if I do you, dear? A lot of these answers and why they affect anything seem to be involved, or just kind of random questions or random things. So our answer here could be, do we go hunting with him, or do we send him away and he potentially spends a bunch of money? Let's go with what about me? Oh, what changes of our marriage? He grumbles dramatically. See, this, whenever it's white, I guess it's just an answer. And the left and the right there, I don't think matters. If it does, there's some secret to that I don't know. The country folk are simple heathens and superstitious. They think red things mean bad omens. How stupid. I see. Seems odd that a single statement would affect things. I just had a nightmare that God wasn't real. I'm shaking. Should we pray? Yes. Get real. Let's go with get real. You see, piety pleases the church's watchful eye, but some feel too much piety weakens this kingdom. Why are you in my room? I see. Cardinal Vincenzo. The court is foul with wine, and men with stained mouths chase your ladies. Why not abolish drink? So, say yes or no. I think we will go with no. In the East, they hold more holidays, but they work longer hours. My queen, could that work here? Longer hours, more holidays. Well, you look at the dress of these characters and you assume a specific time, and so you would assume that there is a decent amount of farming going on, so longer hours on farming isn't really going to work. But I think inherently there's a underlying question here. It says, do you want to try and copy somebody else and show weakness in your own leadership and probably lower things, or do you want to stay the course and show strength of your own rulings and previous monarchs' rulings? Let's go with no. You must not wear a green dress on your public walk. Your Majesty, remember the country folk find red impure. Or you must wear a green dress on your walk. Okay. So they seem to just hate everything red. Okay. So pretty obvious to say okay to that. You'd be kind of a fool to say no to that unless you just were trying to lower your stats, which you are, I think, still trying to keep your stats in the middle just to keep that to the number of years as high as possible. But if you get to like 99 or 100 years, it gets very questionable. Like, even if you were a child queen married off at the age of 8, 108 years is a long time if you got that high. We may never get anywhere close to that. The treasurer is here with a big news, but I'm in my painting lesson. Tell him to go away. Okay. Why would I tell him to go away? I'll say I'll talk to him. Yeah, we have another new character. But I feel like each of these lines of dialogue that they have here are too long for gibberish. And then we just have a lot of text here. Even in the 2 years between the original Reigns game and Reigns Her Majesty coming out, the amount of storage that a game on a cell phone could use was probably at least double, if not even more. So while you could potentially make an argument that the first game couldn't hold full voice acted lines of dialogue, it really doesn't seem like there's a reason why you couldn't have that in the sequel, and particularly the Steam version at least, because this is going to get odd, and at a certain point I will probably just think about turning down the volume if all I'm going to hear is gibberish sound effects. They played music in the background once, but that music only played for a brief second or two and then stopped. Sorry, had to drink some water. I'm going to have to do a lot of that. Discover the way to increase her financial reserves by increasing royal bonds. Are you able to improve it? Do it. Wait for the king. Sure. If people want to support the country and buy bonds, do it. May I continue to seek your opinion on matters of finance? The king is not necessarily as attentive. Great. If you must. Let's see. So in this, perhaps there is a way you could stop his cards from showing up, which increases your odds of seeing other cards and going down a different path. Although it seems like your options here are already set in stone, and you would have had to send them away originally. This might be a country that just straight up doesn't respect a overly strong queen, so if I get my military strength too high, I might be in trouble. But money now looks like it is at the maximum, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I misunderstand the system, and you are supposed to try to keep everything at the highest. But that then would beg that we'll get more events later on in the years that have larger negative effects, and that the first few years are all about building up a stockpile of power and resources. My lady, will you wear the red gown or the green one for your public stroll today? Green. Red. So I guess if I wanted just to buck tradition completely, I'd go with red. But let's go with green. And that increased everything. Oops, I forgot to say green in this kingdom is this kingdom's royal hue. It rouses our fortitude. Sometimes you can't win. Are you kidding? Right. Moving on. I'm not sure I really understand what that sentence meant. And unfortunately, that is going to be the case where you aren't ever really going to understand things. It feels like it would have been nice in the first game after playing a few times if you have seen a card for it to literally give you the numbers. That's true for a lot of games. If you could get into the internal numbers and see what an action is going to do after having dealt it several times, that'd be nice. But that is the beginning of a game getting also very predictable and boring, and replayability would certainly suffer if you knew exactly the outcomes every time. The only randomness would be which cards you get. We are the richest rulers of all time. Let's ride our jeweled carriage worth the entire kingdom's forest. What? Yeah, we may be losing here because we may have gotten the amount of gold too high, and we may now roll over our jeweled carriage. The gleaming carriage is too heavy. The road crumbles beneath you, and you tumble into the sewer and drown. And so there is your first death. We made it 16 years. And so we can go left or right now. And this is very much the way runs would end in the first game. You really just don't have a choice. You're just going to get this ending whether you like it or not. There's no chance to recover, no chance to improve it. Queen has died. We made it from 999 to 1015. And let's see. We could go back to the menu, or we could just hit next. So, royal deeds. We got the maiden, and so you have a little bit of a hint as far as what kind of characters you'll try and unlock or turn yourself into. Memento Mori's, remember you two will die, is here, and so the game actively is telling you to look for each of these deaths, which you can see there is more than 8 listed, but not more than, I'd say, 16. And then Portrait Gallery gives you a general list of all the different portraits. We can see that we've seen a decent number of people, but there's still more people to do. Also, some of these characters have stars over them. Well, everybody seems to have a star in the top left, except for the Countessa, which maybe means that you actually did have to do something to unlock that. We've discovered, it says at the bottom, 30 cards, and if the bar there is the indicator of having discovered 30 cards, then we know there's a lot more cards to discover. So, inherently, I should make a 30-hour episode and end it here. But I think I want to do a second run in this recording and see what else we can see. So now you have a different star sign, and you apparently have 3 quests at the bottom. Recruit the acolyte, perform the coronation rite, investigate the locked tower. So the game is going to try and push you in a little bit of a further direction. There are 12 signs of the zodiac there, so perhaps something happens if we go full circle all the way to the zodiac. And then there is a bar that moves things forward. Although we did skip over one sign of the zodiac anyway, so getting the entire zodiac full could become fairly difficult. Alright. Iris the Maiden's death will forever be remembered in mournful river paintings. Queen Tamara was chosen to strengthen ties with the West. She may not be welcomed in her new land. And so it is just starting you over again. But not so much setup. A guard from the Eastern delegation was so creepy to me just now. Please, lady, let me end their visit early. Yes? No. That's a dumb reason to end, so let's go now. The coronation day approaches, sweet queen. May I instruct you on the coronation rite? Yes. You'll take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, then clap your hands softly and spray your charming perfume. Too weird, but okay. So now we have an item here. Royal perfume, the charming scent of royalty, may win some people's hearts, which changes potentially the outcome of some interactions. Inherently, I do like, I'd say the phrase inherently too much. I do like the fact that there is some extra stuff happening on the second run, but I also kind of wonder if there isn't some really tiny percentage of people that would have played this once, lost so early in the first 30 minutes, and just turned it off and never played it again. If this was a cell phone game and I lost in 30 minutes, I could see myself getting bored with it and never even trying for a second run. Most video gamers of modern days have been trained to not expect to die ever. Definitely not in the first 30 minutes. So you almost need a warning screen at the beginning to explain how the game works a little bit better, as far as you're going to play as a queen and then you'll eventually die and then you'll play as a different queen, and you really aren't even going to make progress if I had magically made it to like 100 years old in that first run. That would have just been an amazing new game run, and it still wouldn't have unlocked maybe the royal perfume or anything else. Whoop whoop, it's time to officially crown the new queen. She will, of course, perform the coronation rite. Ready. Don't worry. It's just a formality. Your Highness, take your first step. Alright, so forwards, and then 2 steps back. Forwards. Yes, you're doing just fine. Next you take 2 steps back. Now you must clap softly. Now, for the finale, spray your perfume, your royal scent. And then you have to hit Y to use that inventory item. And then select perfume. Well, my queen, how perfect you are, how well you did. My eyes are burning. That's how charmed I am. Why, thank you. Can I go now? So we unlock the graceful by performing the coronation rite. And seemingly, at any time, we can use this perfume if people are mad at us. And it seems like you can almost use it infinitely, but maybe it only has 2 or 3 uses. Your kingdom is quite rich, my queen. Where there is wealth, you must use wisdom. Let us save. Buy more jewels. I think you have to say let us save here, because everything is just dangerously getting too high. We are seeing new characters here. Some divine onlooker has blessed us with plenty this spring. We can give lamb to every family in the land. Let's. I want to keep them all. No, by all means, let's give it to the people. The coroner says the crown must pay for half of its new cathedral. Do we do everything he wants now? Let's definitely go with no on that one. Your husband was creeping around the maid's room again, my lady. I don't like the look in his eye. That pig. Ignore him. If I go that pig, perhaps I lose support. Ignore him, I think I lose more support. Let's go with that pig. A scandal would be such fun for us maids, but I suppose you must rein him in. I'll punish him, I'll punish you. Or I'll handle it. I'll punish him. Yeah, I would definitely go, yeah, you can't threaten to make a scandal or make a scandal in the royal court. Plus that balances things out. You have her whipped? Well, that's a little extreme. But not too hard. It's really not her fault. Yeah, and we may very much have some compromise decisions we have to make as royalty in this game. I know we have had our differences, but I have no one else to talk to hear where you listen. Okay, let's listen. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like had I not taken my vows. Does this make me weak in the faith? No. Yes. Let's go with no. The lowlands are flooded and the wheat is drowned. Some curse has fallen. We must build a dam. Yes. Too expensive. Not sure. The church is asking you to help Sister Pauline make crafts with children for the Saint's name day. It's good publicity. I hate her. And nice too. See, this is where the game gets odd. Because if I say yes, which is what I want to do, I'm going to raise the stats too high. And the money is going to go too low. But if I say no, maybe the money stays and then we take big hits on our public effects and our church, our people versus church. Both of those may go down. And then if I was to try and use this item, what are you throwing around items for no reason? What are you trying to achieve? Interesting. I'm doing art. Never mind. Let's go with I'm doing art. So, interestingly, that's a way to lower your stats by throwing something at the queen, at the king. Yep. But really, at this point, I probably have lost again. A wild crowd is outside bearing gifts for our beloved queen. They're tearing the drawbridge down. What? What? That's all it ever ends at. Good idea. You cannot simply manipulate this coil with any old object you have in your bag. I do as I like. Sorry. Let's go with I do as I like. Wow, that worked. Wild crowd is outside the bearing gifts for a beloved queen. They're tearing down the drawbridge. What? What? Hey, let's see what happens if we get all the stats down to 0. The court will never forget the Mad Queen who threw random objects around for no reason. Well, I guess that's a different ending. And with that second playthrough, we went through things a lot quicker, and we only made it to 11 years. So very quickly, you're going to have to become very callous to wanting to actually play the game the way you want to play it. And this is very much the case in the first game also, is that you're just chasing outcomes and no longer role-playing. I guess the stars here indicate that I can unlock the Heathen and the Savant, but these others not yet. Is there a star around? Something there. No, actually, I bet the stars indicate something new. That was unlocked this run. Now we're up to 12 of 45 characters. Yep. But yeah, you are definitely just going to end up having to become numb to role-playing and just trying different variations to unlock things. Which, at a certain point, then the question really comes down to why not just immediately start the game with a general guide, maybe not a full-on walkthrough, but something. And so, as far as the royal perfume, we probably won't get that again in the next run. That would be my guess. Alright, well, oddly, if I hit my shortcut key to stop recording here, it may pop up the menu or it may go to next. That shouldn't be too big of a deal, but I definitely saw that when I started recording it popped up to a menu, so that'll be odd. I think this is a good place to end this recording. I'm not expecting this game to go that long, and since I already have Reigns, what is it? Game of Thrones, that I could easily rush through this game and then also rush through Game of Thrones. Ironically, of course, Game of Thrones is not even that big of a deal anymore. Although it's still a pretty big deal. Perhaps if you had read the Song of Fire and Ice books, the Game of Thrones version of Reigns might be a little bit more interesting, whereas the narrative of Reigns and Reigns or Majesty seems to be just written by the creators of the Reigns games. But I imagine we'll find that even the Game of Thrones skin to Reigns gives you just kind of Reigns. Same is true here. Reigns, Her Majesty, playing as the Queen, has so far not really felt like a big difference between Reigns. It almost would have been acceptable if this was based off of an actual card game. But then I also question how you would play an actual card game like this instead of an app, because there's just a little too much randomization and too much hidden. It's not something as easy as just tapping a deck of a bunch of cards and shuffling it and having random outcomes occur due to random events. You would need something closer to a dungeon master with a play guide, a guidebook telling you what the outcomes would be to make a game work like this. Anyways, I'm probably rambling. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.